Okay, so I don't see Jess, but she will hop on when she can, I guess.
All right, sounds good.
Okay.
Ready?
Yep.
All right. Hello, everyone. Super excited about, I know we have the challengers and then we have our HF community as well. So kind of bundling it all in one. I'm super excited to talk about hydration. Sometimes I feel like it gets a little bit overlooked just because it seems so simple. Yeah, it's just water, like, not a big deal. But as a nursing background, I'm passionate about kind of knowing the why behind things and how our cells actually function because I feel that if you
Oh, sorry, Sam, I
Oh, it's
muted
okay.
you.
It's okay. But if you know more about like how the process works, how the body works, then you're more likely to just like execute on it because it feels more important to you because you know how big of a deal it is. So just talking a little bit more about cell hydration. It's about ensuring that you have enough water for your cells to perform the necessary function. It's a really complex process. Water moves in and out of our cells, and how your body manages that, it has to keep everything balanced. So it kind of starts by we have our cells have a semi-permeable membrane, meaning some things are allowed to move in and some things are allowed to move out, water being one of them. Um, so kind of going back to like middle school and learning a little bit about osmosis, cells need water to carry out things like energy production, our metabolism, nutrient absorption, waste removal. Um, Without water, your cells, they can't do their jobs properly. Go. So osmosis is a process that your body uses to regulate water movement. If there's too much water inside the cell, then water is moved out of the cell because your body wants equilibrium. It wants to be balanced. So the goal of osmosis is to keep the right amount of water inside the cell to maintain the shape of it, the function of it, and the health of it. And with that comes electrolytes. So we have sodium, potassium, magnesium. Those are the bigger ones, and those are dissolved in water. They help manage the flow of water inside and outside of the cell. A lot of times, sodium is extracellular, so it kind of stays outside of the cell, whereas potassium tends to more be like intracellular. So that's why, like, when you have more sodium, or like especially if you don't drink enough water and have a higher sodium meal, you kind of notice that bloating. Um, in the water retention because the water is not inside the cell, right? It's outside. So your tissue's kind of pushed out and you have that bloating feeling. So electrolytes, they help create an electrical charge inside across the cell membrane, which we need for nerve transmission, muscle contraction. So that's why you get those cramps when you're like dehydrated or maybe you're a little bit low on potassium and everything's just not balanced. Why you get headaches too. It's just the electrical circuit is not working as properly as it could. Um, and just overall fluid balance. So water plays a role in a lot of cell processes, our metabolism. It's needed for the chemical reactions like breaking down food. So that's why you'll notice as you increase your water, digestion tends to get better. Your body's better able to kind of break down the food that you're eating, and you need your body to break down the food in order to transport the nutrients to the different cells, right? You don't just want to eat the yummy food. We want to be able to break it down and process it well so it can help us to feel optimal. It helps to transport nutrients and waste. So water helps move nutrients like glucose and oxygen into the cell and then carries the carbon dioxide out of the cell. And then temperature regulation. So water helps to maintain a stable internal temperature by absorbing heat from the reactions like breaking down food. So when your cells are well hydrated, they function their best. When we have cell dehydration, it causes our cells to shrink. So it affects their abilities to do work, and then it leads to fatigue, poor concentration, could be a weakened immune system, headaches, and sometimes, if it's severe, problems with kidneys and heart. So just as water moves into the cells, it can leave through osmosis. So when you sweat, when you urinate, if you're breastfeeding, your body is losing water. So it's really important that we, rehydrate even more during those instances because again, water balance. We don't want our cells to be dehydrated. And then just talk a little bit more about the systems that work together for cell hydration. Your kidneys, obviously, we know that one. They filter blood, they manage how much water you retain or release through your urine. Then you have your thirst mechanism, which happens in your brain. It tells you when you're dehydrated and when to drink more water. And then we have a hormone called vasopressin, and it helps to control how much water is reabsorbed by the kidneys. Again, that happens in your brain too. And then, what was I going to say? So cell hydration is all about making sure your body gets what it needs to work properly overall. It's more than just drinking enough water. It's literally on a cellular level, it's helping your whole body function at the best that it can. So now, how do we do it? How do we drink more water? Yes, it's important. It's easy to overlook because we do get busy, we get distracted. It's hard. So my biggest thing that I love to do is always just making sure you always have a water bottle with you, especially with a straw. Like it sounds really, really silly, a straw, like does it really even make that big of a difference? But it does, because like I'm sitting here talking, maybe you're presenting for work, like you can literally pause, take a sip. Like you don't have to like open anything. It's not going to spill as easily. It's just a lot more convenient. And I've had clients too just notice a big difference when they simply just use a water bottle with a straw instead of one that you have to open. Let's see, don't wait until you're thirsty. I mean, that's an obvious one. We want to make sure that we're getting ahead of it. You could eat hydrating foods. So you could choose fruits and vegetables that have higher water content. I mean, we don't technically maybe use that towards our water goal, but it really does make a difference. If you're having watermelon or, like juicy blueberries or apples, like those cucumbers, it can just help. And then they will have electrolytes in them as well. So like there's potassium in them, there's vitamin C, there's other things in there that can again help your body better absorb the water that you're consuming. And then yeah, I just mentioned that too. It helps to balance the electrolytes. Same thing with like bananas, leafy greens. If you have coconut water is usually high in potassium. It will have some sodium in there too. So again, just really, really help with hydration. If you are losing a lot of water, if you're breastfeeding, if you sweat a lot when you're exercising, or just sweat a lot in general, you might benefit from adding actual electrolytes to your water too. Or if you live at altitude too, like it can help to have more electrolytes. So things like LMNT, there's a couple other brands that have been mentioned too that I'm not familiar with. I tend to use LMNT just because I like the chocolate salt one, and most of them don't have like the chocolate flavor that I enjoy. But adding that can help get your water in, but it can also help again with those electrolytes, making sure that your water goes where it needs to go inside of the cell and not just remain outside of the cell. Setting really small goals, again, like we kind of talked about this in prep week, just small goals. Again, it sounds kind of silly, but just if you break it down like during the day, it doesn't seem as daunting. Like if you're only used to drinking 50 ounces of water, 100 ounces, like that sounds insane. Well, let's not start with 100 ounces. Like let's start with 60 ounces, right? And kind of slowly work our way up, because number one, you're going to feel better. You're not going to have to pee quite as much as this is if you jump to 100 ounces. You're not going to have as much GI distress, because if you do drink too much water, hang on one second, let me finish. Too much water at once, it can cause like diarrhea too, especially if you're having a bunch of water and then having your caffeine. So slow and steady is kind of the name of the game. Go ahead, Henrietta.
Yeah, it was a question, so I just wanted
Yep.
to not miss that. Christine asks, do you need something like LMNT if your nutrition is dialed in, or is it just an extra?
It really depends. Most people probably don't need it, but if you don't eat a lot of packaged foods, then especially like if you're used to eating a lot of packaged foods and now you're starting to eat less packaged foods as well as drink more water, you might benefit from a little bit of electrolytes in there. But if you're used to eating like whole nutrient dense foods that aren't like packaged, that don't have as much sodium in them, you might not need an electrolyte. You can kind of play around with it. If you do add them, maybe start with like half a pack, and see how you do. But not everyone will need them. But a lot of people do like to have them for flavor, or again, if you're not eating many packaged foods, if you don't like your food super salty, you could possibly benefit from adding an electrolyte.
Yeah, I feel
And
like
if
the
you
best way to know is just to try a half a pack, see how you feel. If you're noticing like better energy, and you don't feel puffy, I guess is a good way to put it, then it's probably great. And you could even try increasing a little bit. If you're super active and you notice you have low energy throughout the day, I would recommend trying it and just seeing. I think the really like the downside is if it's too much sodium for you, then you will feel like kind of swollen potentially. And that's where I would take it down.
but again, like it's like you could feel swollen too if you're not having enough
Yeah,
sodium in there. Like
true.
I'll notice for me, like I kind of overhydrate sometimes. So if I'm not adding enough sodium to my water, like I will get puffy not having it too. So, but if you add
Yes, I
it,
think pay attention. I feel like for me, like a half packet or one packet per 40 ounces of water is kind of my rule of thumb. But I live at a high altitude. I'm pretty active. I eat generally unprocessed food. So I can handle 2 to 3 elements a day and feel great, where other people like one and a half is their max. So it kind of just
well,
depends on your current water intake, your activity level, your food intake. And if you have any questions, we're happy to troubleshoot that with you too.
And what would
yeah,
you ladies say about like if you don't want to use money on electrolytes, just using salt? Like
try.
what would you say about that?
You could add lemon and then salt inside of your water. I don't remember how much the recommendation is. It's like, is it like half a teaspoon or like a quarter of a teaspoon to start with?
Yeah,
And
I
lemon.
can look and send that in the group. Like an example for LMNT, one packet is 1,000. I'm actually putting some in my water right now. So it's 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. So I'll look while Sam's talking and let you guys know on kind of like a homemade option.
And if you do
Hmm.
introduce it, I highly recommend introducing it like in the morning or like around your workout too, because that can a lot of times help clients feel a lot more energized, less sluggish, just feel better going into their workout. So that can be, if you do try it, try adding it around your workout and see how you feel and how you like it.
Another thing you can do too is just start salting your food intentionally with like Redmond's. You don't want to just use like your cheap white salt. You want to use like a Redmond's or just paying attention to its actual salt so that you're getting those benefits from it, and then just intentionally salt your food when you eat and see if you notice a difference there too. If you're not wanting to like purchase an additional supplement or kind of play around with adding in that higher content.
And I know a lot of people have already asked too, like, does sparkling water count? Does like tea count? I would count that toward. I mean, I don't think that we need to get into the weeds about it too much. Would I count my coffee? No, probably not. Yes, it does. We use water with the beans. But things like sparkling water, if you use a flavoring, amino acids, if you add essential amino acids, like I would count all of that towards your water goal. And make it fun. Like if it helps you to get in more water, then by all means, I'm all for adding a little bit of flavoring as long as it's, I mean, doesn't like I wouldn't count like a soda or like a, like a Diet Coke or anything like that. But if it's just like a flavored water of some sort or like a tea, I mean, how do you guys feel about that? I always count that.
Yeah, I'm thinking like my first thought is like if you are one that drinks very little water, like in general, like below 50 ounces a day, I definitely believe that, do whatever you need to do to get it in and to increase that intake. If you are one that drinks like 80 ounces of water daily, but you need to kind of put something, a taste on it, I would say challenge yourself to try to start drinking water without the taste because you're already kind of in you're having the basics down of getting the water in, even if it's not, necessarily natural water. So now maybe taking that step. So I would say, like, based off of where your baseline is, do what you need to do to get it in, and then challenge yourself if you're already getting it in and making it even more natural.
Ideally, most of it is water,
Yeah.
or like maybe water with electrolytes. But yeah, challenge yourself. I like that. So we already talking about pair water with electrolytes. Mini goals. That's what I like to do for a lot of clients, especially that struggle a lot. Like I will have them literally add it to their calendar. Like drink, at by 8 a.m. drink, 20 or 30 ounces of water. And then by noon or 11, drink another 30 ounces. Then by 3 o'clock, another 30 ounces. So again, it kind of breaks it down and makes it feel easier. It helps so that you're kind of sipping it and not chugging it throughout the day. And you're ending your water, by like 5 p.m. or, whatever time. So you're not up all night peeing and trying to play catch up because you're so behind on water, and, you're finally done for the day. So like you're going to chug it, but we don't want you to be up all night because we don't want it to affect your sleep either. So, you're kind of balancing it out just like we do with our protein, right? We, 30 to 40 grams of protein each meal. Can you have 20 ounces of water before your meals? Ideally, you're not drinking the water with your meals just for optimal digestion, but can you set small goals throughout the day so it feels more obtainable, but also it's going to be better for digestion. You're going to feel better throughout the day. It's going to help with cravings if you can kind of slowly drink water, and again, not wait until 3 o'clock to consume most of your intake. We already talked about carrying a refillable water bottle, more hydrating foods, and then yes, with exercise, especially if you sweat a lot, take an extra electrolyte. Because it can help a lot. Again, making sure that you have enough potassium, enough sodium, and then the magnesium too, especially around workouts to again help with that nerve. Like we're using our nerves, and our muscles are contracting when we're exercising. So that's why it's extra important to make sure that we're super hydrated pre and post training sessions. And then just to talk a little bit about sunlight too. Sunlight can indirectly help improve cellular hydration. So being intentional about getting enough sunlight can also indirectly help with hydration. Sunlight at the right times. It improves hydration by promoting healthy hormone balance, boosting your vitamin D, improving circulation, all of which are needed for the hydrating mechanisms that help our body. So trying to get AM, midday, and PM sunlight, even if it's just 5 or 10 minutes, even if it's not sunny out, that can indirectly help with not only, hormonal and metabolic health, but it can help with cellular hydration as well. That's kind of all that I have. What else?
Another, well, just announcement wise, for those that are doing the Build the Ultimate You challenge with us, we are on day 1 of 100 ounces per day as the goal. If that feels good, you can totally do more than that, especially if you're adding electrolytes, but just kind of go off of feel. I think once you hit 100 ounces, if you're thirsty, drink more. If you're not, then you don't need to. And for those of you that are doing the challenge, you'll see that habit on your dashboard. So you can check that off every day. And next Monday, we will be doing our first giveaway. So I'll announce probably on the call next Monday. I'm going to give away some HF Hydro Jug that Sam is just drinking out of right now. Hold it up, Sam. So I have that one, and I need to go home. I'm in Costa Rica. So I'm pretty sure I have the green one too. I want to give away both. If not, I'll probably send you 2 red ones. So those are my very favorite water bottles, because the one that Sam just held up it holds 40 ounces. which is nice. So I know I just have to fill it up 3
Straw.
times a day. It does have a straw. It's also got it's aluminum, so it keeps things cold really well. And when I travel, I actually have one with me right now. It's my favorite because I can pop that straw down. So if I'm like on an airplane, it won't spill, and the straw is not sticking up and getting like gross germs on it. So it's my favorite. So I will be sending that, plus likely a bonus one, to someone random. I'm just going to go through next Monday and see who has done all 7 days of drinking 100 ounces and just choose someone random for a giveaway. So excited to do that alongside with you. And if anyone has questions on water intake, definitely ask us in the groups. We're happy to help. And for those that are doing the build challenge, we're excited. Hopefully this will challenge you a little bit. If you are already drinking 100 ounces, no problem. Maybe challenge yourself to try to not flavor all of that water or some of that water. See, if you're adding like Crystal Light to it or something like that, maybe only do electrolytes this week and see how you feel.
For sure. Should we go, should we add, like, is someone struggling a lot with water? It would be interesting to hear from someone to see like if there's anything, because
That
usually
just hates water.
yeah, exactly. It'd be,
No, but it's,
clients
I mean,
I'm
we can
sure
laugh,
there are someone here
but
that
there's
does.
plenty of people that do hate water. And I've heard that many
Yeah.
times, even from friends. I think some good options, if you are that person, if you just like hate water, so for me, actually, I used to dislike water unless it was like ice cold. Like I always had to have ice in my water. And now I rarely add ice, but I do a lot of times have electrolytes in it. And I feel like adding the salt to my water made it to where like I really want to drink more. It was like harder for me to drink more before when it just was plain water, and now with the added salt, it's so much easier for me to drink more. So if you're that type of person, if you have to have it ice cold, then just add ice to it, but maybe try adding some salt to your water. And even just a simple option is just that half teaspoon of salt with a little bit of lemon is a good kind of homemade option. You're not going to have, I'm trying to think if there are, I was just looking up, I sent a little kind of recipe to mimic LMNT, but let me look. If you guys have any other ideas, I'm just gonna see really quick.
But going
on
off the
some
temperature
page.
thing, that's a good one too, because like a lot of people some people like warm water. So like having more teas, that would be helpful. Some people like a room temperature, and like I personally like it cold, maybe not necessarily ice cold. And the same thing with my kids. Like some of my kids will drink it better when it's more room temperature, and one of my kids likes it when it has to be cold or it's harder to get in. So finding that for you, like how you prefer it, that can be helpful, and as well as just any flavoring. I find that any time that clients struggle, adding just in a little bit of flavoring, at least initially, it can help. It can help a lot. Just get used to it, and then it turns into a habit, and then you always don't necessarily need the flavoring, but you're used to drinking so much water that it just becomes a habit.
Yeah, and I think that like that's the key word, like the habit, because that's also why I think, as I mentioned earlier, like if you always flavor your water, but you drink a lot, like try to not do that. Or if you always need ice in your water but you drink a lot of water, like try to remove the ice, just so that you are giving yourself a little bit more a wider range of how you actually can get your water in, so that you don't need to be in situations where,
yes, you
ice is
have
not
to.
possible and now I'm not going to drink water at all. So
A straw
I think,
does help. I can chug
Yeah.
quite a bit with a straw, so that kind of helps even
I
no
like
matter the
that,
temperature.
like when it's a little bit of bigger straw, because I like to pour.
Yes.
And that's
So
just
I
the
was
thing, like everybody's different, so you have to
Yes,
just
so
play
figuring it
around
out.
with it, find what's right.
Exactly.
So I
We have a
was
few more
reading.
questions.
I was just gonna say a half of a teaspoon of salt is about the equivalent of 1 package of LMNT. So it's a half of a teaspoon is 935 milligrams of sodium, but you only get about 2 milligrams of potassium and half a milligram of magnesium. So you would want to supplement with the potassium and magnesium, because the LMNT gives you 200 milligrams of potassium and 60 of magnesium. So I think just like keeping that in mind, it's really easy to take a magnesium supplement before bed. And then on the potassium, you could eat foods high in
with the
potassium.
banana, yeah, or
Yep. Or
watermelon.
you could just get it's called no salt, like potassium chloride, and you could supplement with that. It's like there's lots of recipes online to do that as well.
So
If
how
you wanted
about
to use it.
carbonated water? Again, like I would count, like
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, I mean, I would count that. What are your thoughts on the importance of filtered versus tap water?
Ooh,
That's again, like we're getting into the weeds a little bit here.
yes.
Optional, filtered, just because again, it has to do, I don't know exactly the specifics of the science
Yeah, there's a
behind
lot
it.
of filtration options.
Right. But it has to do with the, again, the electrical, how would you put it in layman's terms, Michaela? But I know
Well,
that tap water has, like, the charges that have to do with it somehow are different because of the fluoride in it, right?
Well, not all water has fluoride too. So
Right.
knowing if your
Depends on where you
water
live.
has fluoride, depending on where you live, but also like for instance, we have I would look into your local water sources too and see, because when you do things like reverse osmosis, for instance, I have reverse osmosis in my house, and that filters out a lot of the bad things, but it also filters out a lot of the good minerals too. And so then my water is lacking minerals. So if I'm not replacing those, or if I'm eating a really processed diet, then I could have issues. Since I do eat a lot of whole foods and vegetables, it's not something I worry about, and so does my family. But if I was eating kind of like the sad American diet and I also had reverse osmosis, then I could.
Oh, she cut out. But yes, I mean, I agree. But again, we're getting into the weeds a little bit. But yes, you can always look into your water sources, where you're getting it from. But there's gonna be pros and cons to literally everything. So it's just finding what works best, and like how are you going to be able to drink it on a consistent basis the best.
Yeah, and this is also something I think if one is drinking very little water, like just drinking more water, no matter what it is, it's gonna be helpful. Like that's gonna be the bigger win in the scenario, you know.
Sometimes when we focus so much on like how can we perfectly do it, like it almost freezes us. Like we don't even want to start because it's like too overwhelming. That's why sometimes there's almost too much information, and it's like, where do I start? So that's, you know, I don't want that to happen. I don't want you to feel so overwhelmed by, you know, it needs to have this much electrolytes, this much like, no, don't worry about all of that. Like just focus on
more water.
getting enough water. Yeah. Like where it's coming from. Yes, it matters. Yes, we want to challenge ourselves, but also we just want to start, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, what depend like it depends on your baseline basically. I would like to share like I think like just sharing a few tips on like how we get in our water can be helpful. So what I do, for example, is when I go to bed, I fill my bottle. Now it's this one because my red one is it's being cleaned. So now it's this. So I fill it up. Like that's the last thing I do before I hit bed is I fill this up so that when I wake up in the morning, it's ready for me. I don't need to do anything. It's there, ready for me in the bathroom. And I will empty this. That's the first thing that I do in the morning is empty. And, you know, that's a little like, you know, extreme if you don't do that normally, but I drink a liter of water. The first thing that I do, and basically that's me pouring a liter of water. Like, I'm stepping outside, drinking my water, and takes maybe 10 minutes or so. And that's kind of my like, I don't drink a cup of coffee until I have all of that water down. That's my first way of getting in water. And then I've set myself up for success the night before because I filled it up. And then my rule that I like give, or rule, but my advice for all clients is just like treat this water bottle as your baby. Like this should be in a baby Bjorn on you like the whole day basically. Because if you're out and about and you leave your water bottle at home and you're out for 3-4 hours, that's going to be really tricky for you to be able to nail that water target. So like make sure that it's always there, because that is also will have you in situations where you're actually thirsty but you don't have your bottle next to you, and now you have to go out of the room, up the stairs, whatnot, to get water, and you're not going to do that. So if it's there, you're going to drink more just because it's there. So that is very important. And I also have this like, and don't go in your car without your water bottle. Like that's a hard rule. Your water bottle is with you in the car. So that's that. And yeah, I drink all the time. And then, yeah, something that I wanted to say is the signs for hunger and the signs for dehydration or like thirst is a lot of the same. So many times when you think you are hungry, it's very likely that you're actually thirsty or your body is kind of screaming for hydration. So that is also something to just have in mind, that you many times you might think you are hungry, but you're actually thirsty. So yeah, it's your baby. From now on, the next 6 weeks, this is your new baby. You can name it.
Yeah, maybe name it. I was gonna say.
Oh,
Well,
yeah,
thank you
that's
so
mine
much for joining, everyone. And for those doing the challenge or not, share your progress, share how you're getting your water in this week. And if you're having troubles, let us know.
for sure. Okay,
Have a good one.
bye.
Bye.